Hey everyone, welcome back to the broadcast. This is episode 23. Hope everyone's doing very well on this Monday. It's a little cold outside today, unfortunately, but hopefully it decides to get just a little bit warmer. I'd very much like the weather to kind of heat up a little bit. I know it's winter, but we can all dream, right? So hope everyone had a great weekend. Today's podcast is going to be a little bit short probably, but let's see if we can jump into three specific topics today. One of the things I wanted to talk about was kind of related to the concept of fake it till you make it. Another one was related to my take on the markets. And the third, which is actually most important to me, or the most interesting at least, is the new way of communication on various different social media platforms such as TikTok, Instagrams, Reels, and various other apps that are popping up here and there. So let's just start and jump into it, and we'll knock these out as fast as possible. We'll have a bigger episode going on tomorrow, probably, and we will come back to having that podcast. We had an issue this weekend, so we are going to push it to Thursday, but we will have a big episode on Friday for everyone. So stay tuned, and we'll continue on. So with that being said, let's start with our first topic. I had to get a little bit of coffee in there. Ooh, sorry, bumped the mic. But in any event, so one of the things that I find quite interesting at the moment is how the markets are reacting to, in my personal opinion, what's happening in America, which is kind of the transition of presidents right now. One would think that we'd have a smoother transition in the market, but we are seeing a lot of volatility kind of happening at this current time, if you will. A lot of stocks are actually increasing. A lot are dropping, but it's not by a percentage point or two. It's a little bit dramatic. There's a few stocks that are hitting, drops of like 10% or things like that, and that's not good. What I believe is the cause of this, again, is probably due to the change in administration. Now, if you actually look at the realistic pieces to what may affect the market, there is probably an infinite number of variables that go into it, right? So it's anyone's game. It's more or less gambling. A lot of people would like to think that it's not, but that's really what it is. You can really bet on different stocks and different companies and try to predict if they maybe have a good product in the pipeline and when they're releasing, when might be a good time to buy. I find the tech industry to be really great for this. I make a lot of money off of buying and selling AMD and NVIDIA every year whenever they release their newest chipsets and things like that. Intel as well is kind of the same deal. But in general right now, the reason I think we're seeing some of this volatility is because under Trump we had more of a free-ish market, if you will. There was a lot less regulation. Now, it is my personal belief that we will get a little bit more regulation under Biden, and not inherently market regulation, but in terms of like tax revenue and things like that. So it's very likely we are going to see a slight increase in taxes, but that means we're going to have a little bit less spending power, and when as an economy we have less spending power, we generally tend to spend less on the market. So that's something that a lot of analysts are kind of looking at and seeing where that may go. In addition to that, with the censorship of media that we're seeing lately of President Trump, no matter what side you're on, whether you believe it's right or wrong or whatnot, we're not going to touch that topic today. But that's an interesting topic to touch another time. It's important to understand that what we're seeing is, and this is a big one for big tech right now, is the change between being a producer of content and a platform of content, and this supersedes things like Twitter and YouTube, where you're like we're actually doing right now, where we're talking and having a conversation, and this is going all the way to Amazon for things like the cloud. An interesting thing is now a lot of these far right extremists have moved to a few different apps, such as Parler, and that's being taken down by Google. It's not being added to their search results. It's being taken down by Apple. It's not being listed in the App Store. And also the Google Apple's application store as well. It's not being listed there. And Amazon recently canceled their contract on the cloud. Now, I personally think this was a very bad move by Amazon. And the reason I think that is independent of how I feel about Parler itself being an app. Amazon just stopped essentially providing service to a customer based on some arbitrary decision. that's problematic, because what that does is that actually creates an environment where there's a little bit of unknownness related to the cloud, right? If I could have all my infrastructure, all my programs, everything listed and kind of serviced by Amazon's cloud, Amazon Web Services, who knows if they'll take down my stuff. Now, I think that's a very hyperbolic statement, and I don't think this is something that we're seeing a pattern of that Amazon's doing. So I'm not personally too worried about it. But again, to tie this back to the market, one of the ways that can cause a little strife in the market is because once you see big tech moving from the position of, okay, we'll just hold your content, we're not responsible for what it is, to, okay, now we're actually going to start managing your content and making decisions on behalf of the world. It's a very fine line, because the market really tries to balance itself. That's kind of how it works all the time. And that's done through, again, buying power of people. And if people decide that, okay, Amazon is, a web services provider that we don't know how trustworthy they are anymore, because who knows what content they're going to take down, people are going to buy less into it, which means it's going to drive down the stock price of AWS, which is just a big tech stock. And there's, thousands and thousands of tech stocks, but I'm just giving this as an example because that's a big one that drives a portion of the market, just like all these other various tech companies. But the idea that they are moving from this place of becoming a place that holds content to a place that manages content is a little bit scary for me personally, but we shall see how that affects the market. I am very hopeful that Joe Biden will be able to stabilize the market in some way. And this is also kind of going past U.S. based stocks and things like that as well, because you're seeing even a few people in England, England, if I'm not mistaken, one of their, let me look it up just so I'm 100% sure on here, one of their financial advisors and regulators on Monday for the Parliament, from what I understand, and if I'm wrong on this, please feel free to correct me, has actually come out against Bitcoin. And it looks like that these governments are kind of getting upset, and these market types are getting upset because they're not able to, or they don't understand how to really trade and get into the Bitcoin boom. Now, we've seen recently a really, really, really high price of Bitcoin. I think it was something like $42,000 per Bitcoin, something crazy like that. But basically, the UK's financial regulator, and this is by MarketWatch.com, where I found this article, said on Monday that if consumers invest in these types of products, they should be prepared to lose all their money. So essentially, he's comparing Bitcoin, which is this, one could hypothesize as like a tech currency, if you will, as to being something that consumers should not buy because it is too volatile of a product, right? And basically he went on to say more or less that these investments, cryptocurrency, crypto assets, things like that, they promise high returns, but there's no guarantee that that can actually translate to dollars or money in your hand, for lack of a better term. So that's something to be interested on, because if they come down with a regulatory hammer to put some constraints around Bitcoin, which to this point in time there has not been, that will definitely affect the market as well. So there's all these things that it's, in my personal opinion, when you kind of take everything together, it's kind of starting to snowball, right? We're seeing all these tech companies change how they do their regulatory processes on things. We're seeing the uptick of cryptocurrency. We're seeing the inflated price of cryptocurrency. We're seeing kind of a market that has not slumped for about 10 years or so now at this point in time. In terms of it's kind of basically been going up from the previous recession, right? So we're seeing this almost perfect condition to start seeing a bubble, right? And that is kind of scary to me. What we see in the markets is approximately every 10 years or so we have a crash and a rise. Okay, so it's a lot of people like to blame it on certain presidents. A lot of people like to blame it on certain conditions, and those are all very important things that very much do take into account how the market responds to changes and various things like that. But it's important to know that economically speaking, we do see a consistent pattern of rising and falling over the past 100 years of the market, relatively, approximately every 10 years or so. So we're definitely due for a crash, right? So a lot of people right now are buying up stocks thinking, oh man, everything's hot. But it may be a good time to hold back a little bit. The more money you invest, you have to understand it's just a gamble, right? The way I do my investments, and I recommend everyone do their own research, figure out how they would like to invest themselves. But personally for me, I take into account my age, I take into account my spending power, and I don't invest any money that I expect to get back. It's kind of my strategy for gambling. I treat it that way. And so I buy stocks that may have a higher beta or volatility in the market. But with that comes the potential for higher reward. And so when I take out money from my paycheck every month and things that I put my money into, I could lose all of it. And that's a very real possibility. But I'm willing to accept that. And I'm willing to, buy into the market more, if you will, to get the opportunity to receive a higher return. Now, if I was a little bit older or less secure in my job or my career, perhaps I would invest more conservatively. Maybe I'd invest in stocks that have a constant uptick over years and years and years. Like one of those is gold, that kind of always increases in value relatively. It's a very safe bet, but it doesn't always bring higher rewards and returns, so that's one of the things to consider. So think about it. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because I just think it's important for people to understand that we're probably on the cusp of a bubble. And if you are dumping money into the stock market, one must realize that the opportunity to lose that is very high. And if that happens, don't be one of those folks that is the first to complain that they lost everything, because dumping money into the stock market is your decision. Buying cryptocurrency is your decision. I think that after a crash, that's a very prime time to buy stuff because things are very low, and it's unlikely you'd see another crash for approximately 10 years. But personally, right now, I do not think this is the best time to invest. That's my 2 cents on it. There are much more people out there that are very well versed in this that could run circles around me, and I'll probably hear 101 comments after this texted to me or on some various platform of how everything I'm saying is wrong, and that is very fair. Again, I will easily concede to economists and people that know far beyond what I do, but it's important to just, be informed about these things, especially if you have your nest egg wrapped up in the stock market and finances and things like that. So we'll leave that topic there, and we will jump into the next topic, which I find incredibly interesting. Let me just hit another cup of coffee real quick. This is one of my favorite mugs. Maybe I'll show you the bottom of it someday. It says, have a great day on it. But when you drink coffee, it's got like a middle finger on it. So I've had to be very careful when I'm on video camera for work, because sometimes when I'll tip my mug up, I realize, oh shit, I have this mug. And then I have to be worried that no one saw it. So it's kind of a cool thing. I like it though. But anyways, the next topic is pretty cool. This one's very interesting to me. And again, this one is more of where I think things are going, right? So we're seeing this change in the way that the next generation, Gen Z, is taking on content, right? We kind of moved, if you look historically, from a place before where the internet was, and it's important to drive this point home before we get into where we're going, because you can kind of see how things are building to this place where when the internet was created, with my generation, I'm a millennial, you basically saw the advent of spam and the advent of email, more or less, from a perspective of everyone kind of has one. And you would always get these spam emails left and right, everything would be crazy. And then everyone kind of realized and caught on to that was something that no one liked, so we invented spam blockers and we started blocking spam emails. And even prior to that, you had things like chain letters, which were more or less spam in your mail. And even today, both of us get physical useless mail a lot of the time. I don't even check my mailbox half the time because I just don't want to throw away literally half of what I get every day. It's kind of crazy. But continuing down that path, after email, we saw different things like video sites started popping up. YouTube was a big one. And on there was all different ways to receive content, different ways to discuss things. And a lot of them were leading and kind of spammy. Everyone had an opinion. And YouTube's still probably the primary way that people receive content and digest it. There's also the media. But, to go back to my original point, what we are seeing from this next generation is kind of like a change in how these folks want to receive their content, right? And we are moving from a place where you're getting these long, drawn-out, informed opinions, and people want very quick, short bites of information. Now, juxtapose that against also the rise of podcasting and things like this that we're doing right now. Whereas not only do folks really want these short bits of information, but they want to dive deep and dig down into it if they're super interested in a topic, right? So that's, I think, why we're seeing podcasts as well. But they don't want that much information 24/7 because we're hit with it left, right, left, right, left, right. And especially with the evolution of these new technologies and applications like TikTok and Reels on Instagram and things like that. And prior to that, I believe there was another one, all these like music apps and like very short bits of content producing apps, things like that. This next generation, they digest content a lot faster and they only want the highlights of it. Okay, so what I think would be very interesting for companies to do is start to figure out a way to provide content that is easily digestible and quick, but also provide a means to dig deep and dive down into that content if the user wants it, right? These medium length bits of content we've received from YouTube, we've received in emails, that's not working anymore. One of the things I've been subscribed to for about the last 6 months is this text messaging service, which I actually highly recommend to everyone. It's called TLDR, and basically it kind of covers a lot of the tech industry, but it's a quick bit of information and it shoots you a text message or an email, whatever you want, and it's very quick. It shows you a paragraph of what the topics are, and it only highlights the top things in the industry right now, completely non-biased at all in any way. And basically, if you want to dig deep into it, you can click on it and it'll break into an article, and it tells you about approximately how long it's going to take you to read those articles. So I have an idea, when I want to get into this, when I want to dig a little bit deeper, dive a little bit further into it. If anyone from that app is listening, I'd like to see a way to save things so I can come back to them later, but they don't have that feature right now. But the point is, stuff like that. And so you combine that with TikTok, right? And it's like, a lot of the times I'm hearing, and I don't know if this is a consensus that is larger than me, because I don't personally enjoy TikTok, but I know pretty much most of my friends do, and people that I know do, and they say I've learned so much off of it. So they've shown me a few things, and it's kind of crazy. They take a message on TikTok and they distill down the main important parts of it while visually showing, some type of medium to kind of make you remember it. And then that's how people are learning now. That's crazy. That's not how you learn at work. That's not how it's traditionally been done. And I find it fascinating to watch the process. Now, personally, again, I'm not a fan of it, but it's very cool to see things like that. I've kind of toyed around with figuring out how to do something like that with my podcast, and it's quite interesting. The views on when I've made like a Reels video, which is Instagram's version of TikTok, for like a snippet of my podcast, just like shoot up in crazy levels as compared to anything else. So it's very clear that's the way to go. So I want to see more companies figure out how to use that medium more and do it right. And then hopefully we will, see a lot more people interested in interesting things, I guess. And I apologize, my cats are wiling right now, so I'm going to have to grab them. Well, that was the first time I actually had to stop my cats from going crazy a little bit. But anyways, back to it. So let's jump into the final topic of today. And this is quite an interesting piece on fake it till you make it. So basically, this is important. And I thought this was really cool because there's this idea that everyone is like stressed so much. Everyone has so much anxiety. Everyone is like going through so many things right now, and everyone seems to be saying that they're fatigued. I hear this all the time, so perhaps it's anecdotal. Personally, I don't feel that way, but basically this study is within the Journal of Applied Psychology, something I look into. But the interesting piece to this is basically it deals with how employees experience and regulate their emotions at work for a long time. And you can find this article on scipost.org, basically. And what this paper more or less found out was it took a study population of 2,500 people, and it found out that more or less those that basically deliver their service with a smile, and not just an outward smile, but kind of like an inward smile, are much happier. They accomplish their goals much faster. They're more satisfied with how their coworkers' interactions occur, and they're happier in general, right? And what that means really is when your boss or asks you for something, hey, can you do this? You could smile and say, yeah, I can do it. But if you don't really believe that, you want to do the best you can, then it's probably going to deteriorate in terms of a relationship with your coworkers to some degree, right? There's a lot that goes into that. It's more than just that little bit of information, but the whole point is, you can apply that concept and idea to your life, right? So if you're going through something, if you're dealing with something and someone's asking you for help, offer to help them, but do it genuinely. Don't just agree to do something if it doesn't make you happy. If you do that, then basically you're not going to be happy with the results of helping. And not only that, probably it's likely that there's a possibility that your relationship with that person might deteriorate to a certain degree. So I find this fascinating, right? So I think we can kind of combat all these things of like anxiety, pressure, stress, anger even, so to a certain degree, and perhaps improve our friendships in some meaningful way as well. And the way we can do that is taking that idea of service with a smile, helping everyone, having kind of some empathy from them, even if deep down inside you're not really interested in helping them, you don't really have a lot of empathy for this person, kind of telling yourself inside, yes, I want to help them. Yes, I want to help them, instead of just begrudgingly do something, can clearly pay off. And it definitely can work wonders in your life. And that's what this study kind of proved, essentially. An interesting part that I found most about this was not only does it help you develop a better relationship with someone and like make you happier and reduce your anxiety to some degree, but it actually helps you, and they proved that it actually can help you achieve your goals faster. And that right there seems to be a game changer for me. I do my best to try to genuinely help people. There's a lot of people out there that piss me the hell off, but so I'm not perfect with it, but I definitely try, and I would highly encourage everyone to do that as well. So we'll leave it there. We're going to jump back into the topics tomorrow, and I think we're going to have an interesting podcast for the rest of the week. Again, look out for Friday. Teddy, if you're out there, that's the guy that I'll be doing a dual podcast with. Watch out. You better be ready Thursday night so we can actually knock this out. Other than that, I'll let everyone take off today. If you get a chance, feel free to like, subscribe, and share. It definitely helps me. It does cost a little bit to host this, so if I could finally get to a point where I don't have to pay for that hosting cost, at least, that'd be great. And that can be done through ad revenue and various things like that. So again, the more you subscribe, the more you share, the more that'll help me out. But I appreciate it. Everyone have a wonderful Monday, and I'll catch you guys Tuesday.